And hello again, everybody. Welcome to the Giants Guys. This is John Fennelly. I'm here again with Craig Santucci of NYGiantsRush.com for another episode of the Giants Guys. And kind of a slow week, but we still have some news for you. Craig, how you doing today?
I'm good, John. I think just like you mentioned there at the intro that it's a little bit of a slow week. So, we're kind of digging for some topics. But, there's always some juicy stuff when it comes to New York football.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of news, but not really anything that will pertain to on the field, which is unfortunate. You live in New York, and, of course, I work in the news industry, and we cover everything. Somebody attends a gala, we have to report it. Somebody gets married, we have to report it. Somebody has surgery, we have to write it up. So it's about it encompasses the whole team of the Giants, everything they do. There was an article we wrote this week about the Giants signing a letter or a petition to the New York State Senate in regards to online gambling and sports gambling. They co-signed it with the Jets and the Bills to outline what they wanted to see, in the bill, to make sure that New York understood what gambling could do to an industry, sort of like what the stock market, what insider trading can do to a stock, stuff like that. It was very detailed. It's online. I mean, if you go to GiantsWire, you'll see the article I wrote, and there's a link to the letter. Actually, the Giants and the Jets don't even play in New York, so I don't even know why they sent the letter to the New York State Senate. It just should have been the Bills, because New Jersey already has sports gambling. I don't understand, why this was done, but
maybe it had. Well, they may own. There might be some influence they have, because of who they are. So
they have the market rights to New York City. That's what it is.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because they must have influence on the New York market, because Buffalo by itself doesn't really hold a lot of power. So, I'm assuming
don't tell that to the Bills Mafia, man.
Well, yeah, well, and that poor guy passed away this week too.
Oh man, I used to love that guy.
Yeah, I know that. It's always sad to see a young guy go out, fighting, and I only knew him through Twitter, people talking about it. So that was a sad day, and I'm assuming the Giants and the Jets, combining with the Bills will at least have some more influence on this bill that you're talking about.
Yeah. They won't, because the NFL wanted to get sort of like a franchise fee for every state that was going to get involved in sports gambling, and the states are saying, why? Las Vegas doesn't pay anybody any fees, any kickbacks. Why should we?
Yeah, they have enough money in the NFL.
Yeah, so that's not going to happen. So it's New York is close to getting it done. It's just my experience in politics and business. Things will get done if the right palms get greased. Yeah. And then as soon as the right people get paid, everything flows right through, and you're like, what was the big deal? Well, that was the big deal. The big deal is Joe Blow had his hand out, and he was waiting to get paid. It has nothing to do with morality.
Kind of like
nothing has anything to do with morality.
No.
I mean, I was in business for years. I worked for a Fortune 500 company. Nobody has any morals.
Well, again,
it's all about the numbers.
I think that's everywhere. I mean, TV rights, franchise tags, contracts. I mean, it's always about getting paid, right?
And that's, we were talking about Landon Collins this week. It's kind of like backbiting the Giants a little bit through social media and interviews that he's done. But he had his opportunity to say, I'll sign the franchise tag. But instead, his agent or whoever, correct me if I'm wrong, said he's not going to play under a franchise tag. So right away the Giants are like, we were on the fence about re-signing this guy, okay, because it's going to cost a lot of money, and he's a one-dimensional safety. He's actually a linebacker. I keep telling people that. They think I'm nuts, but watch the tapes. Watch the tapes. He's in the box. He's on the he's 5 yards off the ball. He's an off-ball linebacker. That's why he makes all those tackles. He's close to the line of scrimmage.
You are correct that Landon Collins did dominate Twitter and a lot of conversation this week. You are accurate there. I think there are two things. One is, I think it's pretty clear, that he wanted to be a Giant. That's he's wearing his heart on his sleeve. He's, like you said, a little backbiting going on, and he's got his boy DRC by his side. Listen, both those guys, DRC and Collins, would love to still be here.
Of course.
It's a great franchise to play for. It's a great city to be in. They win sometimes, or they used to win, whatever you want to say. But you know what I mean. Right. So I understand the player maybe got some bad advice from his agent on the franchise tag. On the other side of the coin, which you were saying, is I'm not sure the Giants were ever going to pay him, but my issue is always with the Giants is they wait to the last moment to it's absolutely impossible to sign the player. We've known this for years with players. The Collins deal, if you wanted Collins, if you're listening to the Giants guy and you're that fan who wanted Collins to stay, and you don't really have a problem with the flaws or whatever they may be, here nor there. The issue is the Giants should have signed him earlier and not waited this long. I mean, let's if you want to like kind of look big picture, in his rookie year, he was a handful of votes from Defensive Player of the Year. He's led the team in tackles every year. And yes, he didn't manage a handful of interceptions the last couple of years, but that doesn't mean he's a bad player. The guy is a football player. And I'll say what I said. If you guys, again, listen to the Giants guys, you've probably heard me beat this horse. You don't throw away football players. You just don't. You're lucky to have a guy that wants to be here and gives everything he has. Leadership quality in the locker room, all that. But, no, you put him in the box and you make him one-dimensional. You give him no free safety. I mean, Beret and Riley and Thompson were terrible. He's got no pass rush. And by the way, if you had a pass rush, the tight end would have to stay in and chip. Then he wouldn't have to cover a tight end. So, I mean, there's a lot of things you can pull out on Collins. Yes, he's not a great cover safety, but he's not as bad as everybody thinks if this defense wasn't a sieve. And if you wanted them to stay, the Giants should have been proactive and signed them early and not wait to the deadline. What did you expect to happen? It gets more expensive as closer to your contract expires.
That's all very true. But you could tell that they were leaning against not signing him to a long-term deal this year. They probably would have signed him to the franchise tag.
Yep.
But they have other things in motion.
Like, I would have liked to see him and Peppers play together. I think, Peppers is his body of work is good. It's not great. We're hoping that, they can get, maximum production out of the guy. He also plays, strong safety, so it's the same position. And the other safety, what's his name?
Antoine Bethea.
Bethea, that's it. I always want to pronounce that wrong. Bethea, which has played through his years, has played both free and strong.
But Peppers could probably do both too if asked.
That's what I thought. Yeah, like I would have liked to seen Peppers and Collins together, but of course that didn't happen. So
Bethea, they have more versatility there.
Yes, but they also didn't draft Bethea's replacement. The guy is not a young guy, so he's got 2 years left in him. I mean, what? He's 36.
He's 34.
34. So you're still potentially thin at safety, and then of course. You know how Twitter is. Everybody got all over me when I said it. Oh, Love's going to play safety, or, this guy's going to play safety. Like, no. Corners are corners, and safeties are safeties. Why do we always have to stick a round peg in a square hole?
That's true. But, they do have Michael Thomas, who they love.
Yeah.
He's basically a fill-in guy and a special teamer. But they like Sean Chandler, the Temple kid that they picked up last year.
As a corner, though, right?
No, as a safety. They like him at safety. There's a couple of interesting undrafted free agents coming in the door this camp. We talked about this kid from Mississippi State, Mark McLaurin, and the kid from Long Island, LIU Post, Jake Carlock, who could also play linebacker. So they like these guys. They like these jack-of-all-trades guys that can shift all over the place. Yeah. So, I mean, they're not going to be starters, but we're talking about the nickel and dime packages. They love these guys. And they love these type of guys. That's what I'm saying. So
I never get it. Just draft a safety to play safety. Stop converting these guys.
Yeah, but look at the quantity they have in the secondary now.
Yeah, it's a deep room.
They have two good corners. If DeAndre Baker is truly the shutdown corner that they think he can be, and Jenkins, okay, you've got two shutdowns right there. If Jenkins is motivated to play,
he better be motivated to play. He won't have a job.
Right, he can still play. Love is ready to step on the field, from what I understand. So he's going to be your slot corner, and now all these other guys are going to be fighting for playing time.
Yep.
The kid that got shot, Ballantyne, he was just signed today. Baker, I'm sorry, not Baker. Who's the other kid?
Beal.
Beal. I'm sorry, Beal, and Haley. Those two guys, they'll be looking to get their time in. So it's going to be a very interesting camp for the defensive backs and also the linebackers. But getting back to Collins, he didn't fit here. And I think that the fact that the Giants didn't really communicate that to him is the problem. If they would have said to him, look, we're not re-signing him. That's all you got to say.
Yeah.
The injury did not help.
Back-to-back injuries, forearm and the shoulder.
Right. The forearm, he only sat out one game, I think, but he lost 4 games to the shoulder. And the Redskins signed him to that $84 million contract.
Well,
I can't imagine he passed the physical.
Yeah, and we all know they overpaid. And we all know the Giants weren't going to pay that. And we all know he was overpaid. But, again, as we started the show, it's always about the money.
Yeah, and they weren't paying him $84 million. That's for 6 years, by the way. That's not a 5-year deal. That's a 6-year deal. So, it kind of alleviates it a little bit. But still, the guaranteed money was a lot. Right? So they weren't doing that. They weren't going there, especially for a safety that didn't really fit their system.
It makes sense why he's not here. I just always go back to, if they really wanted him or they thought they could make it work, they should have signed him in his 3rd year and not his 4th year. They should have signed him after the forearm, before the shoulder.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, I personally would have kept him, but the way free agency is working now, so, these guys come out, their first non-rookie contract, or the first contract after their rookie deal, they're getting way overpaid, some of these guys.
Oh yeah.
Look at that's why the Patriots are like, go. If they want to sign a guy, they'll sign him a year before his contract is up. His rookie contract is up. That's the way they do it.
And that's why they're so smart. Like
they know who they want to keep. Yeah.
They'll look at McCourty or they'll look at Julian Edelman and they'll be like, all right, look, this guy's up in a year and a half. Let's just do it now. Because they know a year and a half later they're too expensive.
Right. And then when you see a guy who's going into the last year of his contract with the Patriots, they're not re-signing him. Because they would have done it already. And they already know, especially if the guy is a starter. Like, look what they had this year. Trey Flowers and the offensive lineman, his name is escaping me right now.
Which one?
The left tackle. Brown? Was that his name? What the hell is wrong with me today?
And they let him go.
But anyway, they'll get a 3rd-round pick for each of those guys because they were both starters. They'll get a 3rd-round compensatory pick.
That's why I was shocked they re-signed Shepard so early. What a great – and I kind of like – I look at that move and I'm like, you know what? That's got to be Abrams. I don't see Gettleman being that guy.
Well, Sterling Shepard they really like. Okay, they always have, and he's kind of been in Beckham's shadow a little bit. Not a little bit, a lot. Let's face it. When you look at the targets, when Beckham is here, Beckham was here, Shepard gets about half of the targets, not even, of what Beckham was getting.
And the injuries help Shepard, because if you look at his numbers, he's increased his yards per catch and his overall yards every single year he's been on a team, 3 years in a row.
And his responsibility, his role on the offense is different if Beckham is there.
Correct.
So if Beckham's gone, now he kind of takes a bigger role on. Now they bring in Golden Tate. They kind of split. They'll kind of split the targets a little bit, the number one targets, and then it's a crapshoot to see who's going to get the rest. Ingram will get some. Barkley naturally is probably going to get a lion's share of the short passes, since nobody can seem to stop him. Why not?
Yeah. But coming back to your point about the Shepard talk, it was just nice to see them not let him go into the end of his year. So, and listen, it's all about money. Collins is in Washington. We know Washington tends to be like a no man's land for players.
Football is king in Washington, but the thing is that outside of that market, you don't really hear a lot about their players.
No. Well, yeah. And they just, they don't win. They haven't won
they haven't won
in
a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a good place to play or a bad place to play, but it's like I said, it feels a little bit like a football desert, not a lot going on.
Right. Well, that's, the owner has a lot to do with that, I think. The fact that they've made he makes the decisions, and that's the problem. When you don't have a football guy in charge, and, I know Bruce Allen is supposed to be in charge, but I can't believe a lot of the things that they say that they intend to do, like drafting Haskins, was their plan. They say, we had him all along. No, you did not have him all along. He fell to you and you took him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what happened. Because a lot of other teams could have done it. Like Bruce Allen said, well, Gettleman doesn't know what we have on our board, so he didn't know if we were going to take Jones. Hey, you weren't going to take Jones, or maybe you would have. Who knows? But, they probably would have taken Jones, now that I think of it. Because that's the type of quarterback that Jay Gruden likes. And Jones, getting back to him, the more and more I do research on him, and there's a lot that we hadn't done, and we apologize for that. The more and more I like him. And the more and more I'm thinking, this kid has to play soon. If they sit him for a year, and the Giants don't win, that's a problem. That's a huge problem.
Double-edged sword. The Giants, I'll still be barking about the same thing I was barking about in December, January, up to last week. Unless you have a pass rush, you're not getting off the field. If you're not off the field, you're giving the ball's not in the quarterback's hand enough. Mm-hmm. So you're destined to lose. It's very secular when you think about it. If you have a pass rush, you get off the field. If you get off the field, the quarterback has the ball. If the quarterback has the ball, you got more chance to score. So if the defense can't get off the field, you can't expect Eli to look good or win these games unless the defense can get off the field. And this notion that, well, we got the best defensive backs in the league, we'll get coverage sacks. Look, man, you need, whether it's up the middle or on the outside, you got to contain the run, you got to rush the passer, put pressure on him, and you got to finish. You still got to put the guy down, knock balls down. You got to, the old Osi Umenyiora tomahawk chop. You know what I mean? Like, you still got to make plays against the quarterback. Like, you can't expect these DBs to cover for 8 seconds. It's not going to happen. No. I don't care how good they are.
No, that's definitely not going to happen. But I think their pass rush will be better this year. It has to be.
Well, the biggest key to that, and I know we're kind of jumping topics,
Yeah.
is Marcus Golden. The guy hasn't done anything in 3 years because of injury, and then the defense switched to a 4-3 with Betcher gone, so we suffered. I don't know if a guy can have 2 years off and be expected to be a double-digit sack guy. I don't know.
No, I think you're right about that. But first of all, he got hurt.
Yeah, that was year one.
And then last year he was put into a different defense. He wasn't a 3-4 outside rusher. He was a 4-3 linebacker. And a lot of people say there's not much of a difference if you're just a pure pass rusher, but to tell you the truth, there is a difference.
Oh, of course there is.
And he just couldn't. That wasn't his wheelhouse. So now he's back where he's comfortable. The Giants have they just signed a couple of defensive linemen, and it's very interesting. Some of these small signings that they've been making have been very interesting. I can't even pronounce the guy's name. Freedom. You can probably help me with that guy's name, but they just picked this guy up from Nebraska. First name is Freedom. Last name is Akinum Malanum.
I'm looking it up now because it might have a phonetic spelling.
They re-signed John Jenkins, who I like.
I saw Jenkins re-sign, yep.
So they have a good front now. I think and Dexter Lawrence is supposed to be the real deal. He's supposed to get that pressure in the middle of the field. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And, of course, the X-Man, Zimenez, Carter, we're hoping that, they can generate a pass rush. So.
Well, Carter's definitely the X factor because we saw how good he can be last year. Now it's like, okay, can he duplicate it with more snaps?
Yeah. I wrote an article about him. He got to Georgia. He was one of the top recruits in the nation. And he had a pretty good freshman year, and then he kind of tailed off. He got lost. And a lot of scouts, he didn't get off their radar. He was projected to be a second-round pick last year, but there was something missing. The production wasn't there. He had a couple of flashes here and there every game, but it wasn't consistent. And when the Giants got him in the third round, they said, well, this is a pretty good pick we got here. It's a steal if this guy ever plays up to his potential. And last year we saw exactly what he did at Georgia. One play, he's unstoppable. The next play, you don't even know he's on the field. So he's got to be more consistent.
And that may come with more. That might come with more snaps.
Yeah. He's also playing in a new defense, which I don't think the defense last year, if you watch some of the film, the communication was there. They had a lot of injuries, and then, of course, they traded guys away, but the communication wasn't there. So I think that when the ball snapped, there was a lot of uncertainty. I'd say 7 out of 11 guys were uncertain on what they were going to do or what their responsibilities were.
I think Ogletree being in the defense for a second year will help dramatically.
Right. I think that the only guys that really had an idea were like the guys up front. I don't think the linebackers had much of an idea what they were supposed to do, and I think the defensive backs got confused also. Plus, they weren't very good. So that could be, Curtis Riley, bad angles, wrong place, bad positioning. That didn't help. This year, you shouldn't have that problem. You shouldn't have that problem. These guys should know their roles a little bit better.
Freedom Akinmoladon.
Freedom Akinmoladon. That's the way I'm going to say it.
Akinmoladon. That's a tough one.
Yeah, that is tough. But they got him. They got John Jenkins back, and of course they have Hill and Tomlinson and Dexter Lawrence and McIntosh. The kid they just drafted from Syracuse, Slayton. So that's going to be a pretty good competition too.
You know what's interesting? Nobody's talking about McIntosh. I mean, because he basically lost his year, right?
Right.
How interesting is he? I mean, like, we don't even know what the guy can do. Like,
No.
for all we know, he could be an all-pro player that's just that really puts lights a fire under that whole unit, because we don't even know what he can do. But
We don't even know where he's going to play.
I would have to think they could put him on the outside a little bit. No.
Yeah, I think that's where he goes also. And I think that Dexter Lawrence comes in, starts at nose, and Tomlinson shifts out to the right side. And McIntosh, I think it's a rotation. It's like I don't want to beat a dead horse, but when you're drafting a guy in the first round, he can't be a rotational player. And now I look at this depth chart, and they got a ton of guys here, and you got to rotate them because the fourth quarter, they're going to be dead on their feet. You got to rotate your big guys.
Dexter Lawrence and B.J. Hill should be the mainstays with majority of the snaps, and then I'm thinking, like you said, McIntosh,
Olsen Pierre
Tomlinson
is a free agent they signed from Arizona.
Oh yeah, and Pierre. Thank you for bringing that.
He's
up.
He's actually a pretty good player. He's not a superstar.
The inside or the outside?
He's like an outside guy. He's like an end.
So I could see, Pierre and Tomlinson and McIntosh rotating on the outside. Because I don't see BJ. I only see BJ Hill getting more snaps, if anything.
What happened was at the end of last year, him and Tomlinson were taking 65% of the snaps, and that's why they were dropping dead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, if you look at BJ Hill's snap count, he went from like 20% of the snaps to like almost 70% of the snaps.
Right, he was on the field a lot. And you can't have that in the 3-4. You can't, because it's just too much going on. 4-3, you could probably play a little bit more. But in a 3-4, your linemen, they have to come off the field. And they're talking about Lawrence being a 3-down player. Doesn't mean he's going to play 3 consecutive downs. He can play on all 3 downs. Like he may play first and third. You know? I don't see him playing 3 consecutive downs.
Well, we're going to find out. If they say he's, and we kind of covered this last week, they say he's athletic enough to play outside, so we're going to see. I mean, that should be the strength of the team. Because if you don't have the pass rush, to come complete full circle. Mm-hmm. I know we got a little sidetracked there, but coming full circle is if you don't have the pass rush, you're not going to have a good offensive year. You don't win games, and then maybe Jones is coming in prematurely because people are putting it on Eli. I don't know.
Right. Okay, so let's move on to the big signing of the week, which was right tackle Mike Remmers. A lot of people think that he's going to be the final piece in the Giants' offensive line rebuild. I don't think that's true, but he's here and he's going to probably start at right tackle. What do you think of Mike Remmers, who's been on 7 teams since 2012?
I think exactly that. He's been on 7 teams.
People don't realize it. They've been clamoring for this guy, and I'm like, he's been on 7 teams for a reason.
100%. Like I will say, okay, and if you're looking for, again, back to the 2 sides of the coin. One side of the coin is last year he played guard. He didn't do well. He's not a guard. The year prior to that, he was with Shermer, had a great year, played right tackle. He'll be going back to his original position of right tackle. He's got more experience than Wheeler. He looks to be just a little bit more nastier, better footwork. But there's something to be said about either contracting out or getting cut or whatever it may be. Being on 6, 7 teams in 8 years is a lot of teams. He's there's got to be some flaws in there. So while
he's coming off back surgery.
And he's coming off of surgery. Exactly. So, Don't get me wrong. I hope he does it. I mean, like they also drafted Big George there to potentially come in and play that spot too. So maybe the rookie gets pushed a little faster. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that Remmers is a stopgap guy because he knows the Shermer way of doing things. I think he'll be the opening day starter if he's healthy. And I think that George Asafo Ajayi from Kentucky will eventually get a shot at right tackle. And then, of course, like I said, this undrafted free agent from Missouri, this kid Adams, we haven't seen him yet. I want to see what he can do. He played all 4 years for Drew Lock at Missouri, so he could be a guy. He's played right tackle a lot, so he could slide right in there, hopefully.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't want people to get all over me when I say this, but not many guys can play guard and tackle well. I mean, the one that comes to mind is David Deal, play inside, play outside. But you're going to have major competition at the center position. The Giants have P.O., coming back, but they paid Pulley. So to me, it seems like Pulley's job to lose. And I think that when P.O. went down and Pulley stepped in, I think the line got better. I think Pulley has some stock, some skin in the game with Hernandez since they played next to each other for, I don't know, what was it, 12 games?
Right,
or more?
Yeah.
So I think it's actually Pulley's job to lose. So, and again, this is completely premature because they haven't put pads on or anything. But, if P.O. wants to play, P.O. might have to get some reps at tackle. I don't even know if he can do it.
No.
I'm just making a point
No, that's not going to happen.
Well, again, that was my point. Like, I don't know if that's in the cards, but I've seen Deal play inside and outside, and if P.O.'s that good, maybe they need to move him. But
he's either a center or a guard.
Okay, so you don't think that could happen? I got it.
Right, and Pulley is basically a center. They also have this kid Evan Brown, who they had last year, and they signed this kid from Buffalo, University of Buffalo, from Long Island, James O'Hagan, who they really like. So they've got a lot of bodies there. They just got to sort them out. Some guys might be kept. O'Hagan could be a practice squad guy. We'll see. I know that Pulley is definitely I think he might be number one right now because he's the healthy guy. He ended up taking the last snaps there last year. So Jalapeno is on his way back.
Yeah, and I just think Pulley also has more cohesive time spent with Hernandez.
Right. So that's all going to work itself out. They signed a kid from Florida State. We just wrote it up today. Austin Drugsma, his name is. Now, he hasn't played football in 6 years since he was in high school. But he was at Florida State, he was a champion shot putter and discus thrower.
Oh, yeah, we talked about him last week. Big dude.
Yeah, he's 6'4", 345.
That's a big man.
And, if they can turn him into an interior lineman, just to get some push on the line, who knows? Apparently, he's done everything. When he came to the workout, he did everything as if he had never missed a step. And obviously strong. So I don't really know what to think of it. He's probably not going to make the team. But he could end up being on a practice squad, or who knows. But when you have 90 spots to fill, this is what you do. You take a couple of shots at guys. You never know when a hidden gem is going to show itself.
Kind of like the wide receiver from Monmouth.
Yeah, except for he looks like a player, Reggie White Jr. He looks like a player. That is some log jam. If you look at that depth chart for wide receiver, because you have Tate and Shepard, and then you have Latimer, Coleman, Fowler can play, right? Russell Shepard and Alonzo Russell can play. They have this kid that they signed last year, Britton Golden, who I've never seen. I don't know what he could do. Then they have the kid they drafted from Auburn, Darius Slayton. They have Reggie White Jr., and they have Alex Wesley from Northern Colorado, who should have been drafted, if you ask me. So we're going to see somebody's going to flash here and make this team. One of these guys. They're going to say, "Wow, we can't keep this guy off the roster."
Couple guys will be gunners and special teams guys, but Shepard, Tate, and Latimer are your 1, 2, 3, and then you're rotating in maybe Coleman, and then whoever that number 5 is kind of.
Russell Shepard is a pro.
Without a doubt. I mean,
he's probably going to make the team.
Oh yeah, I would think so. Well, he's a good special teams guy too.
Yeah.
I think you're
they don't have the A-list guy, but they got a lot of B's, and you know what I'm saying. It's hard to disseminate one from the other here because they're all on the same level. And Corey Coleman, they just keep talking about. He's gonna. He has a big opportunity here. We're gonna make sure he gets it too. We're gonna make sure he gets an opportunity.
Oh yeah, sure.
I believe it when you see it.
Yeah. But hey, look, I'll take him. We haven't had a kick returner in 10 years, so if he's on this team and just to return kicks, I'm completely fine with the move.
And that's something that Julius Peppers. Listen to me. Jabril Peppers is supposed to do also.
Really?
He's going to be a kick returner. Yeah.
I don't see it, but I got you.
No, McGahee, the special teams coordinator, said Peppers is going to return both punts and kicks.
No, really? So Coleman already lost his job and the season ain't started?
Right. So this is why Coleman has a little competition there. I mean, on kickoffs, you could have 2 guys. You could have them both back there. But on punts, it's going to be Peppers.
Interesting.
The Giants, they want to get their bang for the buck out of Peppers. And we'll see if they could do that. Now, there's another player I wanted to talk about. We talked about Eric Dungy, I think, last time. But we didn't talk about the kid, the tight end from Kentucky, C.J. Conrad.
Yeah. Great conversation to pick up on because you were talking about Jones a couple of minutes ago, and I know there's some backstory there about him having a hard road. I didn't actually get much of the background on what his.
Well, he went to the combine. He was invited to the combine, and when he took his physical, they found some kind of heart issue, and they diagnosed it incorrectly, but he did have an enlarged aorta. It has to be watched, but he was cleared. He wasn't cleared for the combine, but he's cleared to play football. So it's not the life-threatening or debilitating condition that they thought he had, that the doctors thought he had at the combine. But he does have some sort of issue, but it's not life-threatening. And they said he's free to play football, but he's got to get checked every once in a while.
And the good news on him was, at least, again, it's shorts and T-shirts, but in camp, Jones is not, well, at least what I'm hearing, that the number one target for Jones was him.
Was Conrad, yeah. They love him. He's the kind of guy who can block. But, they have a Red Ellison already. If they're comparing him to Red Ellison, they already have Red Ellison. So What does that tell you about Red Ellison and his future here?
Well,
he may not be here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's an interesting topic because I didn't even mean the Giants brass. I meant actual Jones himself. The quarterback was throwing a lot of balls in the 7-on-7s, the 11-on-11s.
Right.
He was hitting, Conrad a lot. So they've got some chemistry going. So that's good. The second part of that conversation is what you just said about Ellison. Ellison didn't even – I was confident that they were going to make him take a pay cut because he came on strong when Ingram was having his drops, and we all know he's a good blocker. I'm shocked that they didn't ask him to take a pay cut. And he's also a Shermer guy. I think, if anything, Conrad.
I don't want to see them cut the guy. I like Red Ellison. I think he's a pretty good player.
Yeah, underrated, very underrated. I think the competition would be Simonson versus Conrad, without a doubt.
Yeah. Because I don't really see Ingram as a tight end. I don't think they're going to use that. They're not going to use him as a traditional tight end. I just don't see it.
Well, he just doesn't do the. Listen, I'm not picking on the guy. He's not my favorite player by any stretch, but he's a pass catching tight end. You know, he's not a blocker, and he doesn't get his hands dirty. He's not that kind of guy.
No.
So, but it is what it is.
They don't have a role for him, do they?
Well, they got to. Well, they got to have to make it. I mean, like, you know, you got two slot receivers as your number one and your number two. They better figure it out.
Yeah. So I think Conrad's more along the traditional tight end. He can catch the football. He can block. You know, they have Simonson. They have Ellison. Garrett Dickerson probably won't make the team, but if they do carry 4 tight ends,
that's a lot of tight ends.
They do it though, especially if Ingram is not really going to play tight end. If they see him more as a, you know, off the line tight end, a split out guy, I really don't know what they're going to do with him. I thought they were going to trade him at the draft. That's what I thought. I thought they were going to trade him and a couple of picks to try to get in the second round.
Yeah, I was actually, again, I'm kind of hard on Ingram because I don't get him. You know what I mean? We talked about this before, like, you know,
nobody
him
gets
about
him.
It.
Nobody gets him, and that's why a lot of teams say, okay, we could trade for him, but what are we going to do with him?
Yeah.
You know, can he play wide receiver? If he can play wide receiver, we'll take him.
Well, we're going to see, because this year he's going to start off with, quote unquote, a better diet, taking better care of his body, and
what is he, 24?
Listen, man,
are you kidding me?
I'm just repeating the tweet that he sent out, which caught me off guard, because I'm like, well, what have you been doing the last 2 years? I mean, like, you know, I don't think you want to come out.
How could you not be in shape?
I know. It's mind-blowing.
Which is my argument for the kid from Ohio State, the quarterback, Haskins. How could you not be in shape for the combine?
I don't know.
What the hell were you thinking?
Well, I mean, in Ingram's defense, like you said, was playing on a team with Beckham, who commands the ball. So when Beckham goes down, Ingram looks a lot, you know, more in tune with Eli, and he had some nice plays. So hopeful this is a breakout season for him, because if it's not, he's gone.
But think about the way they used him last year. They didn't start throwing him a ball until the fourth quarter, which tells me he's not in the game plan.
Yeah.
If you're not feeding him right away, he's not part of your offense. He's not part of the core. So he doesn't have a role. And then when they start losing, they're like, oh, we better get the ball in his hands. We got to figure something out. They started running screens with him. And once he catches the ball, he's always open.
Yeah,
once he catches the ball, he can go with it.
He's just got to hold on to it.
You know, he's an explosive player. But then again, where do you play? Where do you line him up? You know?
Anywhere if he catches it.
Yeah. So I don't know. If they could find a role for this guy, it'll be great. But it's going to be at somebody else's expense. And if they put him at tight end, an inline tight end, they're going to be lacking because they won't have a good blocker there. You know?
Well, I don't
they're
know.
actually wasting him as a blocker if they try to use him as a blocker, right?
Correct. And they don't use a lot of two tight end sets. So
no. So we'll see what happens. One of the interesting things is the running back situation. They signed this guy, Rod Smith, from Dallas. I think they needed another body at running back, so they signed this guy who really was lightly used down in Dallas. Not a bad player. But that brought up a couple of questions to me on Twitter that I didn't have the answer to. And I couldn't find the answer to. And that was, what's going on with Paul Perkins? And
who cares?
I didn't want to come right out and say that.
No, come on. Let's call it what it is. And this is nothing against Paul Perkins, but he's not an NFL back. We've seen him. He tried. He hits the hole too slow. He's too small. Like, he has no giddy up and go. When Barber learned how to be patient, you'd see him slow down, get lost in the lineman, and then burst through that little hole. Perkins doesn't have no burst. He's just not an NFL quality running back. Like, so I have no idea what they're doing with him. I'm assuming they're pulling the old "we really like his personality" thing, because.
But why is he still on the roster?
Yeah, he doesn't offer anything. I don't get it.
He had a non-football injury last year, cost him a whole season. He tore a pec, and he was out the whole year. And they decided to keep him on the roster. They brought him back this year. And I don't know what the plan is. Maybe they want to give him one more look-see. Who knows? But they have Barkley and Gallman, and there's not much, and they have Penny as a fullback. There's not much left. There's no crumbs left over for anybody else. You know, they signed this kid from Rutgers, Hilliman, who's pretty much the same kind of back as Gallman. You know?
I mean,
I don't understand. Rod Smith is kind of the same way too. You know, there's no room for Perkins.
No, even if there was room, and it's just go back and look at what he did. He's just not an NFL back. He has zero explosion, and then you just have. I mean, you've only got a couple tenths of a second to get through that hole. There's no giddy up in his game. You know, like. No. Yeah, I'm not saying he's not nimble. I'm not saying he's not a good guy. I'm not saying he's not a technical back. I'm just saying when it comes down to squeezing through a crack on the offensive line, and if he gets through it, he's tackled. Like he gets caught in the backfield a lot. He just doesn't have that extra gear, that giddy up and go. He just doesn't have it.
Well, they're going to give him one more shot, and we'll see if he can make the team. I don't think he will, but we'll see. All right, we got two more things I want to talk about, and they're off the field, naturally. The one big news that broke yesterday, the one thing was the Jets firing their general manager, Mike McCagnon, on May 15th, which is a very odd time to fire somebody after you let them go through free agency and run your draft. You can the guy. And, of course, the big thing was now the Giants don't look so bad. Even though they look bad, they don't look so bad because now the Jets are the clowns now, once again. And it turns out that they named their new head coach, Adam Gase, as the interim GM, and that makes it doubly worse because they don't really have anybody in mind. They just can the guy. Your thoughts? Who cares, right?
You just got to ask yourself sometimes, like, is this just what they do in the off season to keep themselves busy?
I don't know why, they would fire the guy. If I'm going to fire a guy, I fire him right away. I'm not keeping him around.
I wish I had something like, in depth to say. Like it's, the Jets, the Browns, the Raiders, they always do things that leave you scratching your head, The Jets seem like they were on the right path, but there's way more to this story that's going to come out later on.
Yeah.
But no, I have nothing really because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, like, especially just timing. This is like where the part of the year where you're putting bodies into camp and you're looking for some diamonds in the rough, and now they're starting all over again. So
there's no direction.
No, it makes a very little sense. Well, even if you didn't like the guy, you probably would be best off either doing it early or doing it late, not now.
Yeah. Well,
but there must be more to it.
The point being is it takes a lot of pressure off the Giants now. Because now the Jets spent a whole bunch of money in free agency. They had a draft where they had the number 3 pick, and they took a top player in Quinnen Williams. And now you see the turnover again. There's a big turnover at the top.
But that's the thing. You sign Bell. You draft. What do you call it there?
You draft Quentin Williams.
Not this year. Darnold.
Oh, Darnold.
You're putting good bodies in there, and then you fire your GM. There's so much more to this story that we may never know.
And the Giant fans don't really care. I mean, what I don't understand is they signed Bell, and now you find out that Gase doesn't want Bell, and now Bell knows that Gase didn't want him. So they have to work together, and now Bell doesn't come to the offseason workout. And here's a guy, you sign all this money, and he's not there. As far as I know, he wasn't there anyway. And
sounds like someone else we know who plays in Cleveland.
And he showed up, and then the other day he didn't show up. And, of course, that's a big story. And a lot of people are talking about it. I know my friend Colin Coward this morning was talking about it, saying that it's a distraction, but it's not a distraction, but it's a distraction because it's OBJ. And the coach has to answer questions, and the teammates have to answer questions about that, right?
Yeah, 100%. You're trying to focus on football, but now you're focusing on off-field stuff. The Giants have been there. They've had their Plaxico Burrses and their OBJ stuff before. You never want it. It's happening, and again, it couldn't happen to a better team.
But the coach has to say something like he has to get himself right mentally in order to come back. Do you mean that the $85 or $90 million contract he just signed, he can't get mentally fit for that?
Well, again, that's why you were saying the Giants don't care because, we got our own problems we're trying to figure out.
Right, and he's gone, and, of course, what's his name? The other guy who got traded with him, Olivier Vernon, had to answer the questions yesterday. And he's like, well, he's really a good guy. I don't know. You don't know him that well. Well, apparently we're not gonna because he's not here and we can't talk to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
there's too much star power in that team. It's gonna explode.
That's it. They're too top heavy. And that's what happens when the sum of the parts become greater than the whole. It implodes. It doesn't work. All right. You have anything else for me today? Any questions? Anything you'd like to know?
I do want to mention that one of my guys at nygiantsrush.com is posting a BJ Hill article this afternoon. So go and check that out because, he's definitely one of those players that we're fascinated by because he seems real old school, and he would have been a guy who would have loved to play under Strahan, just a ball player, So if you have an opportunity, you're downloading the podcast, go online, check out the new content there.
Yep.
We're trying to get more stuff up, but as we've just kind of alluded to, there's not a whole lot going on. I guess, no decisions are being made. I can only tell you that my season tickets are paid. I sent my bill in, and you can always find me on NY Giants Rush on Twitter. I've been even low key there because there hasn't been a whole lot going on. If anything, Barkley continues to show why he's an amazing cat, doing a lot of off-field charity stuff with kids with cancer and stuff. So, just a good feeling that Barkley's part of the franchise.
And just one last thing about BJ Hill. When I was doing my draft research, a lot of defensive linemen coming out, they use BJ Hill as a prototype to compare those players to. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I just like him. He tweets once in a while some stuff. I like his persona. I like his hard work, and he's definitely going to be a leader in the locker room. And, hopefully some of these other pieces work out for the Giants because they can't win 8 games unless the defense learns to shut some people down.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, folks, that's all we have for you this week. This is John Fennelly along with Craig Santucci, and thanks for listening to the Giants Guys.